All right, this is standard 14, which is solving for y. Okay, in this, it's going to be a little different than, it relates to solving equations, but it's going to lead us into graphing. So on my left side here, all of these equations are in what we call standard form. If you notice, we have a number with an x, so we have the x term, then we have a plus or minus sign, then we have the y term, so a number in y, then equals, and then another number. Okay, that is all standard form. And we are going to, by the end of this video, you're going to know how to transform standard form into slope-intercept form, which is over here. If you notice, in slope-intercept form, which you might have heard of before, the y comes first, then we have our equal sign, then we have our number in front of the x, then our x, and then our plus or minus, and then another number. Just as a quick side note, you might have seen this before, y equals mx plus b form. You don't need to worry about this right now because we're going to worry more about this when we get into our graphing unit, but just know that those are the same thing. Okay, so again, we are going to change standard form into slope-intercept form by solving for y, which is why this standard is called solve for y, meaning getting y by itself. Okay, here I want you to pause the video and write down the steps. Our goal here is to get y by itself on the left side of the equal sign, as you noticed in the previous examples, and everything else on the right side. And here are the steps for solving for y. You're going to first subtract the x term from both sides of the equal sign. Then divide every term by the number in front of the y. And then finally, you're going to make sure everything is simplified. A lot of times it'll already be simplified, but you always want to double check. Okay, so it's really just two main steps. All right, example 1. Okay, again, here's my example in standard form, and I'm going to get it into slope-intercept form. So the first thing, as stated before, our first step is to subtract our x term over to the right side. So we are going to minus 2x minus 2x, and I know you're used to just subtracting a number, but we want to cancel, we want to get this whole term over to the other side, so that's why we want to subtract it over. Now I'm going to bring down my 3y because I haven't done anything with that. Bring down my equal sign. Here's where it gets tricky. Now this is a 6 by itself and this is a negative 2x. We do not ever add or subtract things that have x's with things that don't have a variable. So we are not going to subtract them, so this does not give you 4. We are going to rewrite it with our x term first, negative 2x plus 6. It's a positive 6, I'm going to write plus 6. So if you notice, I'm almost done. So all I have to do is get rid of this 3 in front. So the second step was to divide by 3, divide by the number that is in front of the variable, divide each term by 3. So you're going to be dividing it 3 times, so it cancels out there, and I have y equals negative 2 over 3. We're going to go ahead and leave it a fraction. If you can reduce it, you can reduce it, but you cannot reduce negative 2 over 3. X plus 6 divided by 3 is definitely positive 2, so it turns into a whole number, which then we're going to box our answer, and as you notice, we got the same answer up here. Okay, I did want to point out one little thing that might confuse you. This negative in front of the fraction, sometimes it looks like it's up at the top number, sometimes it looks like it's right in front of the line, sometimes it looks like it's at the bottom number. It does not matter as long as it is there just one time. It all means the same thing. All right, example 2. Uh-oh, I see no numbers in front. But what's in front? If there's no number there, it's really a 1. So sometimes it helps me to go ahead and write in my 1s in front so that I know that something's there. All right, so again, our first step is to subtract the x turnover. So minus 1x minus 1x to cancel it out over there. And we're going to bring this down. Notice I don't just have a 1y, I have a negative 1y, because minus and negative mean the same thing. Equals, bring down my equal sign. Again, we're not going to combine things that have a variable with things without them. So we're going to rewrite this as negative 1x minus 5 because we want the x term first. And the reason we want the x term first will come later on when we're graphing. You'll understand why. All right, so I still have this negative 1 in front, so I'm going to cancel it out by dividing everything by negative 1 because that's negative 1 times y. Divide each term. So y is now by itself equals negative 1 over negative 1 turns into a positive 1 x, and then negative 5 divided by negative 1 turns into positive 5. I do want you to note that we never really have to write that 1 in front. So this is the answer, but you can also write it as y equals x plus 5. These mean the same thing. All right, example 3, we're going to start with subtracting our x term over again, minus 3x to cancel it out over here. I have a negative 8y here because of that minus sign. Bring down my equals. Again, we're not going to combine those together, so we have negative 3x plus 24. And the last thing is to divide by that number in front. So divide each term by negative 8. Divide by negative 8. So y is now by itself equals, now you cannot reduce 3 over 8, so we're going to leave it 3 over 8, but negative over negative, never leave this here. It always turns into positive 3 over 8x. And then 24, positive 24 divided by negative 8 gives you a negative 3, so we're going to write minus 3 and box our answer. And example 4, we have our minus 4x we're going to subtract over. Minus 4x. So I'm going to bring down my negative 2y equals, again, we're going to write our x term first, so negative 4x, and then I have a negative 12, so I'm going to write minus 12. And there's a negative 2 in front of the y that we're going to divide each term by to cancel it out. So divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. So y equals negative 4 divided by negative 2 gives me positive 2. Bring down my x, and then negative 12 divided by negative 2 gives me positive 6. All right, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and try these 4 examples and then restart the video and I'll go through them with you. All right, example 1, we are going to subtract 5x. Subtract 5x. So we cancel those out, bring down our 3y equals negative 5x plus 15. Divide each term by the number in front of the y. So we divide by 3. So we get y equals 5 over 3 does not reduce any further, so we're going to leave it negative 5 over 3. Sorry about that. All right. And then 15 over divided by 3 is positive 5. All right, so we're going to number 2. You're going to subtract 6x. Subtract 6x. So that cancels out. Bring down our negative 2y equals, and then I write my x term first, negative 6x minus 8. So divide each term by that number in front, which is negative 2. Cancels out. Y equals negative 6 over negative 2 becomes positive 3x, and then negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4, so plus 4. If you wrote 3 over 1 here, that works as well. All right, and number 3, we're going to subtract our 3x. Subtract 3x, cancel out. So 3y equals negative 3x plus 12. Divide each thing by the number in front. Divide by 3, divide by 3. Cancels out there, so I have y equals negative 3 divided by negative 3 gives me negative 1x. 12 divided by 3 is plus 4. And if you wrote it as y equals negative x plus 4, that's the same thing as well, because again, we don't always have to write that 1 in front. All right, and this last one, subtract 2x, scratch that out, and bring down your negative 5y equals negative 2x plus 25. Divide each thing by that number in front, each term. Negative 5 divided by negative 5. So y equals, this becomes, again, we want to get rid of that negative over negative, which turns into a positive 2 over 5x, and then 25 divided by negative 5 is minus 5. All right, make sure to bring those notes to class tomorrow.